And here we are live with Dude, What's the Bid? It is May 8th, 2025. And we're talking about freight. My name is Kevin Hill, Brush Pass Research, here with Casey Larkin, as always. How are you doing, Casey?
Doing well, Kev. A little cloudy this Thursday, but it's May. I love May. I don't know what it is, springtime or getting towards summer. Days are longer,
Yeah,
but no, staying busy. Things are good. How are you? I know you had a long week last week.
it was a long week. It was a long but very productive week. It was great. I was up in Indianapolis at the BCS, the fifth BCS, the spring event. It was neat. We were in the Union Station Hotel, right? So you had these great ceilings. It was like walking into a time machine. A lot of Art Deco, and it was really cool. The venue was cool. I got put into a rail car, right? So there are some hotel rooms that are rail cars. So
No
I
way.
was in a
Like
rail car, which was an interesting experience.
very cool. I love that. I know they do that at the Choo Choo as well in
Yeah,
Chattanooga.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. So it was good. It's just I want to say it's like a roller car. It was long and narrow, and there wasn't much space between the bed and the wall, and it kind of felt like you're in a single wide trailer. But it was good. It was fun. It was fun. But yeah, the event was awesome. Uh, made a lot of saw a lot of great old friends. Made some new connections. Saw our guest Michael Lombard, who will be on in just a second out there. He had a panel discussion, and he was running around there for Truck Parking Club. And uh, I had a panel with the junior employee of Truck Parking Club, Brent Huda. As we all know, we did a great market update. Him, me, the other Matthew Silver from Green Screens. We talked about the market, what freight is going to do over the next 12 months, and
Yeah,
I have no idea. No one has any idea. All the chaos, who knows?
it is crazy. It's hard
It
to
is
predict.
crazy.
What are
It is
people?
crazy every day.
What are people saying? Seeing,
Pe-
thinking. I think we reached a trade deal today.
Exactly.
Um, what was
Yeah.
the word on the floor? There had to be some optimism, right? Give me some
Yeah.
optimism.
Like basically everybody's kind of waiting to see how this shakes out. How if there are trade deals. I think that the data is showing more and more that it is going to, you know, the, l- the later half of this month into June might be pretty rough. And is that a short term blip, or is that something that's going to be extended? I think that's one of the big questions I have. What do you think?
I don't know. I
I don't know
saw.
either.
I'd love to hear what Lombard thinks, but I saw some smart people on LinkedIn. I think some folks that I respect, Eric Williams,
Yeah,
saying I think people have resumed sailings to some extent. Some of the three, I think he said the three biggest distributors or retailers or something like that coming out of China have started shipping goods again, or at least booking that.
they have.
So
Good.
I know that we weren't seeing ships there for a little while,
Yeah,
but it sounds like things may be turning back on.
it
Not as
does.
fast.
Yeah, it does, which is good, right? I think there's going to be a couple weeks here coming up that might be a little rough, but hopefully it's just short term.
Fingers crossed, man.
Yeah, and I got this great jersey. Look at this, Broker Carrier Summit, number
Awesome.
5. We got those, so you can pick out the BCS staff running around, looking at everybody shaking hands and making deals on the floor. We did a wrap up show earlier today, Trey and I, for an hour. Had 6 guests on there. One guy from Bay and Bay, right? Uh, he awarded. He's already awarded about $500,000 in freight contracts to carriers that he met at the show.
This show
Great.
specifically in
Yeah,
Indy,
this
this
show
year,
specifically, he's awarded
about that.
close to $500,000. I think he posted that out on Monday, right? So you saw a lot of deals, a lot of handshakes. Michael Lombard, who will be up here in just a second, will describe what he was saying too, and just a lot of times you go to conferences, networking is theoretical, right? It's kind of abstract. Maybe one day it'll pay off. It seems to pay off at the show. I was talking to a couple tech vendors too. They've already signed contracts with new people they met last week.
Very
ROI,
cool.
ROI.
That's what everybody's hoping for with their conference, right? Whether they're attending them, or putting them on, like, how do you create those conversations that are natural?
And you do that without booths. So there's no booths at the BCS. You have to develop a relationship before you get into anything else, right? And it's a big thing. Lunch and lanes, right? We have that. If you're looking for dry van freight, or if you have dry van loads, you go to the dry van room, kind of reefer room. Know what you're thinking. Refrigerated room, and the flatbed room, and others, right?
Yeah.
And people make deals in them there. You got brokers and carriers sitting down together, hashing out lanes and loads, and walking away with consistent freight. Nothing better in life.
Amen to that, brother.
Amen. Amen.
That's awesome. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Very cool. Set a
So
broad
that was my
topic.
week. How was your week?
Throw some folks in a room and let them rip. This week, 1 year anniversary with the girlfriend. Went out, had some sushi.
Nice.
That was great. Went back to the same restaurant that we first had our first date at.
Yeah. Oh, that's sentimental.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Working on a bunch of things with regard to the Change Conference specifically. We got one coming up in Brussels. Trying to get European folks out there. Trying to create that kind of same environment, but from a supply chain perspective.
From a supply chain perspective.
So, yeah, primarily working, on that with the guys over here at the Charlie Pesty PR and media team. Did a couple things for Fairlanes here and there, mowing the lawn. But yeah, man, trying to stay busy, trying to swing the golf clubs when I can, and get a workout in. Guys like Lombard out there on the feed, just
I know,
motivating me to get in shape.
So I saw your fellow Jacksonville Zonian, I guess is how you say it. Wasim was out there. He had a great drive over water. The one tee off I saw. He was complaining how bad he was doing that day, and he got up and he just hit it straight, perfect shot, perfect drive over the water, playing his game.
Dude, he's got some serious swing speed.
He does, yes.
And he beats himself up out there. But yeah, like he can absolutely rip it. So I would encourage him to, and when I try to, when I play with him, just grip it and rip it, baby. Keep your head down, trust it, and
Don't
let
think
it
about
fly. It's interesting. Yeah. Glad to hear that he put on a show for you. I think he was like the net champion a year ago, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, yeah. He was.
Maybe that's
Rip it and rip it.
Exactly.
I think that's a good theme for this week. Rip it and rip it. Don't think about it too much. Just do it. And we have a perfect guest to kind of to articulate that position. And that's Michael Lombard, Lombard Trucking, and now Truck Parking Club aficionado right here. How you doing, sir?
What's going on, fellas? How we doing? What's a good word?
Good word is Thunderbird.
Good stuff. Glad to be here. Appreciate you guys having me on board.
Yeah, anytime. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no. Stoked to be here. Stoked to fire up the crowd, fire up the boys. I love jumping on. I love always coming on other people's shows too, because I don't have to quarterback anything.
I know.
Even though on my show, like I let people kind of rip, I want them to tell their story. You're still kind of QB in it, but I love, I always appreciate an opportunity where I can come riff it up a bit and come give some yipping and yapping, especially from the POV of a driver and CDL holder, and now working at Truck Parking Club. It's great to it's always an opportunity to get the name and the brand out there for all the multiple different things that I've dipped my toes into. So yeah, stoked to be here.
It is. It's such a different experience, hosting a show, quarterbacking a show versus being a guest, and you don't really realize that. I mean, we were doing live TV at Freight Waves and stuff, trying to keep the cameras in order. You have production in your ear. You have commercial breaks, those types of things. There's just a lot that goes through your mind. You show up as a guest, you don't have any of that. It's just like, oh, this is easy.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all taken care of. You could just show up, swoop in, a little celeb drop, just straight dropping in, no cleanup. You don't gotta clean up the studio. You could just freaking jump on anywhere and start riffing. Yeah, I love it.
Let's talk about the Broker Carrier Summit last week. What are your key takeaways? Let me know, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Broker Carrier Summit is awesome, and I can't say enough good things about this event. And I think what the number one reason what makes it so great is how mission driven it is. Again, when you think of other shows, and I've been to now 3 Broker Carrier Summits, and each one I've always left. I've left so inspired and motivated just by being in an environment of and in a company of people who is truly trying to help each other win and build community off of it. And when it comes to the event, because unlike other conferences, and I had been to Manifest this year as my first time going, which I'd say, it's a cool event in itself, Manifest, mainly because like everybody's there, like every link in the chain, like even Delta is there, but there are motor carriers there, and it's it's big and small, and it's a really great. I think it's definitely a networking opportunity because it's so big. Like the odds of you finally getting in front of people that you maybe know or have heard of or have interacted with on LinkedIn and so on, like your odds of meeting those people or those companies goes up because it's so big. It's also somewhat educational to other people. Like there's so many different ways to learn, and because it's so big, there's an opportunity for anybody who goes to Manifest to, whether you might not be in the same necessarily industry, like a motor carrier might not need to know what this other tech company is doing or what have you, but just having those in-person conversations is great. But unlike Manifest, what makes Broker Carrier Summit so great is that it's not as big. It's focused on two links in the chain that quite literally can't operate without another. Obviously, there's carriers who operate without brokers and direct shippers. We get that. However, for smaller carriers, but for the most part, one can't brokers without a doubt that they can't operate without motor carriers. Like it doesn't work. And so and that's where the event had come from, is this mission meet. And I've had conversation after conversation with people, over the past 5 years, where they've described as like these issues between brokers and carriers really didn't start arising until about like 10 or so-ish years ago. Like that's as digital load boards have risen and the use of technology has really ramped up, and we've become more and more disconnected across this business. It seems as though there's freight being moved without a phone ever being picked up. And, and that could be upwards of millions of dollars worth of freight. Like you could be moving freight for one guy and you've never even had a conversation with them. And that right there is a recipe for, it's just a recipe for disaster when it comes to relationships. I have a stack actually right here, and I want to show this because I have a weekly newsletter at Truck Parking Club called Taillights for everybody watching live. These are old Taillights newsletters from my family's company, Lombard Brothers Incorporated, which was a motor carrier from Waterbury, Connecticut, that it was once they set the standard for like the golden age of trucking. And these are really fascinating. What's awesome about these newsletters is they have customer reviews in them. And there's even a customer review that a warehouse manager from the Calora Corporation wrote to my grandfather by name. And in that customer review was talking about how the service and the sales, like from the drivers and everybody, like the professionalism of the drivers, and then the helpfulness of the sales staff. In that review, he's like, I want you guys to be our carrier that we're going to work with, and this is how much money it's going to pay. And again, so this is a time period, in the 60s and 70s where the drivers for Lombard are the face of the company, and they're talking to the customers all the time. And the sales staff, they're on the phone. You're in a constant form of communication, and the result was, a lot of success. Lombard, for what it's worth, was a 3-generation-old company. It sold mainly due because of deregulation. They were a Teamster affiliate, but the company still thrived based off of relationships that built in the arena, in the area it was in. We had terminals from Baltimore to Maine. So, I mean, this was a large operation, and now we're finding ourselves having to come back to it. And so Broker Carrier Summit has emerged as the medication, as the prescription for what's really going to solve this issue. And that's what I think makes the event so great.
Face-to-face relationships, right? We've kind of gone for full circle.
We've got to come back. We've got to come back to that. And especially, I mean, and since the 80s, obviously the supply chains, greatly changed. Things are moving a lot quicker. Things are going further distances, and people aren't as close. Things aren't as regionalized. And so you're not going to have the opportunity to be face to face. But that doesn't mean the game doesn't change. Like, it worked then, that meeting face to face, getting to know each other, building a relationship. Like, the game didn't change. Where trucking has changed, the overall game did not. You can't avoid this issue. It's just like any other business. If you own a gym and you want to retain members, a member is going to be retained month over month based off of the relationship you build with them. If there's no connection, if it's an impersonal service, then what's keeping them at that gym, so to speak. Same thing with a restaurant. Like, if your staff is not built, if your staff is not equipped in the service industry to provide not only a good product but good service, a place could have great food, but once they hear about the server who treats you like crap, like, it could, it'll tank your business. Like, we're not past. There's no technology, I think, that can ever eliminate the need for having face-to-face interactions and building relationships. It just seems impossible. And I think it's been trying to get forced. I think we've been trying to force that as we want to do things like streamline and make things quicker and easier. But quicker, easier, cheaper doesn't seem to get people where they want to go.
No, it creates a lot of issues in some cases. And I know allows like fraud to continue to grow in the space. Is fraud a topic at all at the Broker Carrier Summit?
Oh, I mean, fraud was a major. Kevin, if you wanted to take that.
No, I'll let you take it, but yeah, fraud. You can't get away from fraud these days, right? So yeah, it's a major topic. And one of the great things about coming together, meeting face to face, doing transaction with people at the Broker Carrier Summit is that you eliminate a lot of fraud, because the fraudsters aren't going to come out, spend a week at a conference about best practices and learning.
Guys like
good quality players on both sides
smell the fraud on you, chase you out.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's it's an interesting point to think about that you brought up, Mike. It's like we've got all of this technology and automation that is probably much more helpful in a relationship where you met the guy at the conference, right? And you have that relationship. You can text him, call him. You're talking about other things. And, maybe it's easier, right, to have him tender you that freight, for you to accept that freight, know what type of expectations there are, and, make things a lot easier for both of you, I guess.
And quickly to go off. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. Human to human is good stuff. It enables, I think, more automated shit. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was about to say, I was just going to throw out some numbers because I was talking to somebody about the industry this morning, right? And let's just say it's about 1.2 million or 1.2 trillion a year, right? If you just talk about brokerage and the truckloads, and LTL that's booked through brokerages, and that's broker carrier, right? That's 120 to 140 billion dollars a year, right? If you don't have any personal relationships, everything's online, transactional. automated, that just invites fraud into it because that's a lot of money changing hands every year.
Oh yeah, it opens the door. I mean,
Yeah.
because once anything that gets that big, once it becomes such a Goliath, I mean, you're gonna start attracting bad players because when there's more money involved, like if you're when you're talking about billions of dollars moving, you know, a number that I don't think people truly fathom how much $1 billion really is because, we meet these billionaires and all this stuff costs all this money. It just seems like, we toss these numbers out at the cost of things. But when something's $1 billion, it's super easy for something to fly under the radar, to get missed. And so if a couple thousand or if a couple $100,000 are like just kind of going off, like those levels of losses, like don't get noticed, but it as that catches on again, the criminals are like a virus. Once it catches on amongst that, it's going to spread. And then more and more, you're going to find them trying to get in, and then they're going to get smarter and smarter. And then the industry's now reacting to it. And then it becomes a perpetual whack-a-mole. So the numbers is really quite large. I mean, that's another perk of Broker Carry Summit. Again, relationships. And Reed, our chief marketing officer at Truck Parking Club, I mean, he said it best. Like, if we want to eliminate fraud, build relationships. He refers to load boards as the Tinder of freight. He coined that. We need that on a t-shirt. And when you really think about that, we look at, I mean, if you really look at that from at face value, like the Tinder of freight, load boards. But I look at, I'm 35. I look at some of my friends, and if you look at the data, like, less people are getting married, less people. I mean, all of my friends who are single are on, dating apps, and it's nightmare after nightmare, horror story, so to speak. Whereas a lot of people I know, like I'm married. I met my wife, like my wife and I went to two different high schools at the same time, but we knew some of the same people. And she was at the same college as my cousin. And a lot of people, for the most part, I feel like for quite a long time, like you normally find your spouse or your partner like through friend of a friend, like kind of within the Venn diagram of friend groups. Like that's a lot of time because there's trust between your friends and who they're introducing you to. And that's still a lot of times the case. Like I know some people, not saying again, you can find success on the load board, you can, but it's few and far between. And when you do, what's crazy about finding that success, very similar to dating apps, is what's really missed the mark because everything's so go. People have had good experiences, just like going on a great date. Like somebody might have been a great experience. You met on Tinder or Bumble or whatever, but you had a good experience with them, and then you never called them again. Like you had this great, you and this broker really chopped it up, you load, and then you never called him at once after that, or been like, hey, or just checked in. Like you didn't. You didn't lean into that relationship because really you guys just had a great email exchange. You got paid good, broker got paid good, and then boom, you guys never spoke. Like, and then your email list gets so long, you forget the guy's name. You're like, oh, I remember 6 months ago, this guy gets straight. And so that's where we're at, like to where even the good experiences you had people lost touch with them. The same way it's like, I've heard it before. People be like, I went on this date with a person from an app and it went really great. And then they ghosted me. Like, it's crazy to see the parallels between like dating and trucking. It's insane how trucking is like a microcosm of like society, like how there's so much that goes on in the trucking industry that's also happening in the fitness world. It's happening in the dating world. Like it's insane how, Blythe Brumlevy has a show called Everything is Logistics. And I think it's probably the most accurate and funny title you can have because everything literally is, like, figuratively and realistically. Yeah. It's pretty funny.
It is. I like the Tinder dating app analogy. I always use the load boards in Lemon, the Lemon law in economics, right? Is like if you have a used car, right? The best used cars you sell to friends and family, right? Because you trust, right? You're not going to sell your friends and family a lemon.
True.
So where did lemons go? You trade them in. They end up on the lot, right? So all the cars on the lot, by definition, are lemons. And that's kind of what I think. Once loads get to the load board, that they're kind of lemon loads.
Yeah, no, I'd say that's the best way to describe it. And but really channeling off Broker Carrier Summit to lean back into that and why. I mean, this event is going to grow. It's going to blow up. There's so many. I'm trying to lean in on TikTok, talking about it a lot, and I'm trying to lean in on telling a lot of drivers about it, because what's crazy is, the industry, so to speak, is on LinkedIn. Truckers are on TikTok and YouTube.
Yeah.
That is very much where they are, and I think that that's where this needs to bleed. And with the most animosity, I think, towards brokers. Facebook groups, for sure. Still, there's still like Facebook groups are definitely like the dredge of society when it comes to like the bickering back and forth. But TikTok is where like face video content, somebody will really go, somebody will really go fire and brimstone, will scathe a broker, or they'll tell like nightmare stories, and the algorithm just really kicks it into high speed. And so trying to bleed it out into there is really going to have this event grow. But the potential of what, again, because Broker Carrier Summit is more than just an event at this point. It's a brand, it's a movement, and it's a community. And those are three things any company needs to succeed, because what that's going to do is attract people to become super fans of that movement, feeling like they're also a part of this change that's helping the industry, and multifaceted change too, not just building relationships. A lot of my biggest crux is, you had said, Casey, like I'm big and changing the culture of health and fitness in the industry. And, this event, we had 2 group fitness workouts on the agenda for this, which I don't think has ever been done in a supply chain event history besides golf, maybe. We got guys like Nick Klingensmith on stage who gives a strong, powerful testimony, but then ties it right into why community matters, like right into the end, and why focusing on the mission of like why everyone's at Broker Carrier Summit is so important. Using his testimony of the tale of his life, which has essentially been a novel, being a 4-time cancer survivor and a type 1 diabetic, alcoholic, using and then leaning how endurance and obstacle courses helped him build resilience. And then he really tied it in so well about how everybody who's at this conference is building resilience every day. They go through this crazy market. You guys were just talking beforehand about how we're in this period of like unknown right now. Once again, people are unsure. There's a wait and see, kind of like how we had leading up to the election. Then it calmed down, and then the T word came around. So now people are just like wondering. We have all this stuff going on, but he really tied it home. So I mean, that's it was a phenomenal event. Like there's being able to talk from again, we're there as Truck Parking Club. We sponsor the free truck parking. We don't own any assets or any trucks or anything, but there's people, so being able to kind of talk about the brand and what we're doing and how we're helping the industry was also great. I mean, there's a lot of people wanted to hear about us, because besides those relationships, I mean, you can't just, there are no booths there, but there's so much for anybody to go to really gain something. And everything is gained off of that community helping each other win. I cannot emphasize enough how BCS becoming a movement and community as well as a brand is really what's going to be a hard pivot, like the 180 that the industry is going to take. Like this, it's the prescription for all the problems within the industry. That's really, I think, the only logical path forward for things to start to improve. And I can't wait to see how much this event can grow, and all the different cities it's going to grow to.
It's going to grow to a lot of cities, and keep going, because I love what you're saying. What do you think, Casey? What are your thoughts?
I love it. It's cool. I think that that's how you get stuff done, right? Creating those real relationships. But and the community aspect is absolutely critical. It's interesting. There's no booths at the conference, right? Encourages folks to kind of create relationships more organically. But I don't know. What else is interesting in your world, Michael? What are you guys working on over at Truck Parking Club? I've seen some interesting stuff, maybe some partnerships. Did you guys partner with Genlogs?
Yep.
Recently, how are you guys working to create that community and that network effect? Because it seems like a lot of the things that you're associated with are able to kind of achieve that, that the growth that you're looking for with anything that you're doing, BCS or otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. So specific details. Well, real quick, I also I got to give a shout out to Matt Leffler too. That was a big takeaway from BCS. Matt Leffler gave a great conversation about especially stuff going on with nuclear verdicts, which is a whole other problem within the industry. And
Right.
he really sold home this idea. We have these problems we have today because of decisions of the past, and we get the supply chain we deserve, and many reasons for that. Which is why if we want to survive, like we need to do the work, put in the right direction. So I just had to give him a little bit of credit, the old Matt Leffler there. But yeah, when it comes specifically to Truck Parking Club in Lombard, we're one in the same now, and being on this team. Again, it's just like Broker Carrier Summit. That's why Truck Parking Club and Broker Carrier Summit are also partnered. Truck Parking Club is not only just a brand and a company, but is mission driven, and also has a community along with it, and a community that I'm trying to really help grow. The specific partnership with Genlogs, the exact details, definitely a question for Colin, who Kevin was talking to. But just broadly speaking, working with people like Genlogs, working with people and getting involved into the self-storage space, developing these partnerships with people has everything to do with the mission. And that's really where we're finding success is there's a industry-wide problem that we cannot avoid that has been going on, which is truck parking. And when you look at the data of it, Landline just came out with an article with this, that the truck parking crisis being solved is moving, but it is so heavily stalled because, at the government, so in the public level, it costs $100,000 per parking spot. It's billions have been spent since 2022, and we've had an additional 2,000 spots that public that of new public parking spaces that have been built on the private side. So the private side carries the bulk of truck parking in the country. I believe about 4-1. Like the private sector is already carrying it, and the private sector is also still struggling. Truck stops are still closing. Breaking into that market is hard because of NIMBYism within communities, and this is the words Landline use. Local, state, and local municipalities will fight tooth and nail against it. I know in my home state of Connecticut, it took Love's like 4 years to build a location in a town that already had a TA because the town was giving vehement pushback. And this is a town of probably like 1,500 people fighting tooth and nail against Love's, like coming in there, and that they were fighting about traffic and all this stuff. And Willington is between Hartford and Yukon and kind of like the middle of nowhere. And this town was fighting hard for it. So it's not like they were trying to build this Love's like in downtown Hartford or anything. They're building it where the land is realistic. So we have all this stalling going on with solving the problem. And we're really the only players emerging as almost like an instant solve to where we're creating never before used parking available to truckers who are wasting their time. It finds a driver, on average, just under an hour to find parking every day. So they're losing time off of their clock. Drivers are with that, they're having to drive in unsafe locations. There are over 4,000 accidents per year due to trucks being parked on off ramps, and 55 of those end up with being fatalities. So, I mean, this is definitely an issue that's costing lives. So that's how big the problem is, and it's glaring, and it's not getting any better. And when we lean into that, as we talk to people like Genlogs and self-storage people, and really let them know, hey, this is exactly who we are and what we're trying to do. It's opened so many doors to other people wanting to get into it because they don't know that this problem exists. They know it, they see it, but just like a lot of stuff with transportation, it's happening all around us. Nobody knows anything about it. They don't realize it. They don't think it's unsafe. They think it's just it's been so normalized to have trucks, be parked on off ramps. They think that that's just the status quo. I guess that's what it needs to be, when really it's a problem that's costing lives. And so being able to work with, because it's going to take a village, just like with anything, just like building anything, it's going to take a village. It's going to take partnerships. And when you have a mission as important as truck parking clubs, role in the industry, people have been really, really receptive to talking more about it and working with us.
So, Michael, you mentioned trucks parked on off ramps, right? On ramps, off ramps. Detail all the problems with that. from liability to violations to, I mean, what happens um, whenever you have to park on an off ramp and something happens.
So for the most part, large fleets, like I drove for Pam Transport, and they don't want you. Like if Pam knowingly finds out you're on an off ramp, you'll get in trouble for it, so to speak. I don't know if you'd be fired for the first offense, but a lot of large fleets already don't allow it because it's unsafe, and it can also damage the equipment and damage the truck. So like it puts the equipment at risk. But a large part, I mean, it's overall a safety issue. Drivers have lost their lives on off ramps. We got to keep saying his name. Jason Rivenberg, who was killed because he had to park someplace unsafe, and he was murdered in his truck while over the road. I mean, it puts women at risk. It's safety is definitely the overarching issue. And if trucks are on off ramps, not just the safety for the driver, but we're talking about the safety of the general public, who we have a lot of distracted driving going on. We have a lot of, there are a lot of four-wheelers out there who, are driving distracted, and weather plays a factor. I'm not saying everybody texts and drives, but it's safety for the motoring public who's taking these on off ramps. I mean, if there's fog and all of a sudden, you don't see it, and all of a sudden a DOT bumper's coming through your windshield or so on. I mean, it's also protecting the general motor and public. Safety is definitely the number one reason why you don't want to be on an on-off ramp, and you don't feel safe. I mean, I had to do it twice, I think, in my time driving, and both of which were because of inclement weather. Just like I was driving on 35, and I remember you just could not, it was nighttime. You could not see, there was hail. And I went off of an exit and pulled right behind a truck, and you don't feel like you don't feel like you feel like you're out in the open, and kind of you just feel vulnerable when you do it, when you're out there.
Yeah, I mean, I see it from time to time, and I mean, and what's really surprising, because we're looking at research in 2019 at FreightWaves, we were looking in truck parking at that point in business models and kind of how to alleviate that, and it's such an issue, and it seems that public funding, government spend, any kind of packages for it is just something that has just for years gone unaddressed.
Yeah,
it's like the problem that we all know about, but no one does anything about it.
And it's funny, politics in America is funny. It's almost like the WWE now, and we don't need to dive in anything too crazy. But like when it comes to parking bill, because we have politicians who are like influencers now, and where people know their names, and then you have but we got to realize, like, the House of Representatives is huge. There are a lot of congressmen and people we don't know about, but there's certain names we know about, like the ones who are really popular on Twitter and stuff. And the guys who are like, Mike Bost has always been a guy from Illinois who's been really, really pounding the pavement on truck parking, and he's always out there getting bipartisan support. And it's over the years, like, the bill just ends up dying. I think it's getting pushed again. We'll see what happens with the Highway Safety Act that's been going on. But like, nobody knows who Mike Bost is. Everybody knows who AOC is. Everybody knows who Boebert is. People know those names because they're always on the news. But it's like, you ask somebody who Mike Bost is, they'll be like, who are you talking? Like, they won't even know. And there's like, you have those politicians that kind of have, like, they go to bat for like these very like super unifying issues that are like nonpartisan, non-polarizing, and like those people never get any like love or attention, and those bills end up dying. It's like it's like, man, I can feel like I can relate to them, because like I'm always waving the banner for this like get super jacked, get fit thing, and people are like, yeah, dude, I don't get it, like, whatever, like I can relate to those guys. But yeah, it always seems like a revolving door. The conversation will go, it'll hype up, overdrive, landline, everybody jumps in on it, FreightWaves jumps in, there's conversation, and then it just it like fizzles out in a certain way because something else important happens. Somebody else said something that was offensive, or they want to bring up this other bill. It just always finds a way to fizzle out, and we just need to give it enough steam to keep going. And so that's why we keep making content, keep talking about it. But yeah, I don't know why it's, because that's the thing. It's something everybody can agree on. But again, the general public is always pushing back against it, and depending on their areas. So it's like, it seems like a simple fix, just build more. But then when I guess you break it down, maybe it just becomes too confusing. Like, again, the government's so big. Are they focused on who's going to get what? I don't really know.
Are they? I don't know. Can the government ever solve any problems as well as you can yourself? Like, I don't know. The government tells you the food pyramid is like the diet you should eat, and all these different things that kind of put you in a precarious situation. That a lot of it, I think, it has to do with like lobbying. It does, like, if we do get the bill passed, it would be awesome.
But then how do you execute?
Backing it? Is there any way for people to make money? I guess there's probably contracts to like build the truck parking, but like, at the end of the day, it's probably never going to be as efficient as if you're able to find it on your own, I guess is what I'm thinking, right?
It's a hard thing to sell a lot of times to Congress, I think, because it's something that goes into the economy that doesn't see an ROI. Like there's no immediate, like, okay, we're going to build this, and then there's a revenue exchange, like people are paying to use it, like, because they're clearly building like free public parking. But in the ROI gets missed, because the ROI is a more efficient supply chain and save life. Like, the ROI is more of a moral issue that I think long term ends up saving businesses money. Like, I think it saves a lot of people money. But solving the truck parking issue will save everybody money down to the consumer. Like, it'll roll right down, but you don't see that in face value.
It's kind of the ROI, and this is always a problem in a lot of different aspects of economics and life, business, is that the ROI comes from things that don't happen, right? That don't happen, right? There's things that you don't want to happen, then they don't happen, and now I don't even know what I'm talking about. It sounds like, but it's those hidden things, right? It's saving unwanted things from happening, and that's your ROI. But they're all hidden because they don't actually materialize. If that makes sense. Does that make any sense whatsoever?
Yeah, because normally, it makes perfect sense, because normally it's like you pay money for something, you get something in return, and it's worth something. But the general public, it's like, we pay for parking, you have these parking lots, and it's like, what do I get? What do I get in return? Like, what's the immediate benefit? Like, normally, it's pretty simple. Use tax dollars to build hospital. So it's just, for example, or build. Mm-hmm. It could be use tax dollars to build football stadium. We'll say that because obviously a lot of government money goes into, sports team stadiums. We spend money into this stadium. This stadium brings in revenue. Like, that stadium, like, the reason why tax dollars go into an NFL stadium is because that stadium throughout the year generates billions of dollars in revenue from ticket sales, concessions, jobs, so to speak. So that like, there's ROI. There's ROI to that. You build truck parking, like, you're not making money off it. It's a trickle down to where motor carriers are going to save money and the consumer will save money, but they don't see it offhand, because you see it. We give money to football stadium sells stuff, money comes back in. Like, it goes right in between. Whereas the money kind of exchanges a couple different hands before you can tangibly see an ROI from truck parking. I think that's a lot of the issue. You have a safer environment,
right? It's kind of hidden, right? You have a safer environment, so bad things don't happen, right? Trucks don't get hit on off ramps. They're not in more dangerous positions than they need to be. But you don't get money directly back from that.
Right? Yeah, you get save it. Yeah, you get it indirectly by less accidents, means less insurance money, means cost of insurance goes down. So there's like this cycle to where, you don't see the money, you don't see the ROI until like it's 2-3 steps removed from what you've done. And it's all about the long game, and people kind of think in shorter increments.
They do. Hey, let's round up the hour by your other passion. which is driver fitness. Well, let's talk about driver fitness. Let's talk about the status quo and where we need it to be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love diving into this because it's super important, especially for anybody listening. And I think what it means to change the culture of health and fitness in the industry, what it can also do. There's an ROI with this. Dr. Mark Monero talks about the ROI pretty heavily on
Off shift.
how, with off shift, which off shift is on my tri-suit for that reason. I mean, there's not just a moral reason behind this. Again, and that's why it's a win-win. The win-win to changing the culture of health and fitness has everything to do with, we're not only solving a moral issue to where we'd be saving people's lives and increasing their health span and their quality of life, is you will save money as a business, and you will save, and as an individual, like as a person, as a truck driver or as a freight broker, whichever your role in the supply chain is, the benefits of locking in on your fitness will not only improve your quality of life, it's going to improve your wallet, because it's less time you're going to spend not working, less time at doctor's appointments, less money on medications, less money on all sorts of issues that come with a life that ends up riddled with chronic disease and sickness. And so there's just like right within the BCS community, there's a big movement on it. And I was talking about it the other day, you've got me, you got Mark Monero, and you got Jeremy Raymer. And I feel like it's like the Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, or Return of the King. Like you had like in those movies, like everybody's spread apart, like Sam and Frodo are going to Mordor. And then you've got, and they're lighting the torches to Gondor. Gandalf's got to go out and get the Riders of Rohan for Helm's Deep. And we're all out here like spread across the country, just stirring the pot, really getting it going. And so, I mean, I really became passionate about this issue while I was over the road, as I was in my own fitness journey. For anybody who doesn't know, I trained and ran in 5 marathons as an over-the-road trucker. And a lot of the reason why I dialed in on that I give a lot of credit to David Goggins' first book, Can't Hurt Me, that really just drove home the point of you should be an outlier in this issue, and, lead by example in a lot of ways, and throw out your excuses and just go all in. And, and I realized, my grandfather, he drove for over 30 years. He had his first heart attack at 50 before I was born. And he passed away in 2013. And it was complications from heart disease that definitely led to his ultimate, ultimate death, which, my grandmother's still alive. And by all means, if lifestyle and habits were different on his side, if he had known, there's no reason why he even still wouldn't be around, thinking about it. So, it's definitely, it's an issue that's close to me, that matters. The industry runs in my blood. My name goes back over 100 years in freight. And the more and more I started getting fit, the more and more I was opening doors and building relationships. And you meet guys like Mark, and then you find out the truth. You find out the truth about the health of the industry, that the average life expectancy of a driver is 61. That's not okay. And then that the rates of chronic disease are double what it is in just trucking compared to the working class population, which tells me that this isn't an individual issue. This is a systemic and an environmental issue that needs to that 100% needs to be addressed. Because we're talking about, just like solving truck parking, we're talking about saving people's lives, their quality of life, and how valuable they are to society and to their family and to their friends. And when you hear those numbers, I mean, that right there should put up, red flags. That should bring everybody to the table. I mean, could you imagine, your police force, dying this early? Like, imagine if 2/3 of your cops were diabetics, or if 2/3 of them
similar to coal miners from like 100 years ago, from a life expectancy perspective. It's mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah, like that stuff's not okay. And again, with the coal miners, like look at what it took. I mean, coal miners literally went to war with the National Guard over their workplace environment. And I'm not saying it needs to come to that. I think that this can change from top down. And I said this at Broker Carrier Summit a year ago in Kansas City, is that the leaders of the industry, this can't come from just saying, hey, go follow Lombard Trucking on TikTok, see what he did over the road. Just do that. Like, this has to be an environment that enables this culture to do it. And we're seeing it in so many different industries. We see it. I mean, we, and there are leaders in this industry. R2X has that gym inside their brokerage, which is fascinating. They endorse it. Annalise over at Chain, she does that at her company's level of practice of really incorporating, lifestyle into being an employee at that business. And so it needs to come from the top down. And luckily it is. We've got Jeremy Raymer, who started Project 61 to really spearhead this, to raise the awareness, because that's what it comes down to. It doesn't, this isn't, the awareness needs to happen. Again, I led Broker Carrier Summit by asking people what they thought the number one reason for obesity was. Like, why is obesity an issue? They said sitting down, bad food, etc. And I said, those will cause obesity, but the reason has everything to do with education. There's a reason why none of us here woke up and smoked crack. Like, because we know the risk, we know what it will do to us. And people aren't educated enough to the point where they know what kind of putting health and fitness and wellness on the side. When you sideline that, eventually it will, it's only a matter of time before it sidelines you. And I don't think that gets I don't think that level of education is brought to this public, to the general public, especially, and then not just the general public, but the trucking industry, based off the numbers enough. And so with Jeremy at Project 61 and me, myself, I knew that if I wanted to enact change, I needed to double down on this. And if I'm going to get change from within the industry, I need to get the industry involved with what I'm doing. And so I've been trying to advance in endurance sports. Coming into Broker Carrier Summit last year, I was in the middle of doing 75 hard, challenging myself because I was that motivated to really double down. And I had and so I wanted to get people in the industry involved. I talked to leaders of the industry there. That's where Dawn and I had a conversation. I said, hey, this is the mission. We need the industry in on it. This is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be training for Ironman and triathlons. And you will forever be able to go out and tell the world, hey, this is how much we care about the industry, because we're sending this driver to do this stuff. This is his mission. This is how much we're in the industry. And she supported it. And I'm finding that there are a lot more people in the industry who are starting to support it as well, hoping to look to gain some more sponsors from within the industry who will have me go out and make some content, do some races, and keep talking about it. From that aspect, me, Jeremy, and Mark are working together to really get a curriculum going that can hopefully get into some CDL schools for some education. So there's a lot we're working on. So I'm trying to, I just finished my second full distance Ironman. I'm really trying to level up within my age group. So that way, and the more I can level up in my age group, a little bit more leverage I can gain when speaking to other people. Hey, this is who I am in the sport. And then this is also who I am in the industry. We're looking to get you in on it, and this is me talking to people outside of the industry now too. If I can get a little bit of clout from that, I can receive the clout and immediately hold up the mirror, which spotlights the issue that we have going on. But yeah, super passionate about it, so I appreciate any opportunity to come on here and really talk about it to help people out. And again, I'm here, I hope to be the athlete and resource for this industry for the rest of my life when it comes to this topic, which is why I still work as a fitness coach. I will do one-on-one coaching for anybody who wants to make that change and also turn it around and be a part of this mission and that change too, and write their own testimony and story. So I'm keeping all my options open. I'm a 360-degree guy. I'm willing to reach out in any circle and go down any avenue to really pound the pavement for this mission. Because the truth behind it, just like Broker Carrier Summit, if we can unite on this issue, on this foundation of fitness,
it makes it easier to operate as a trucking company, right? Whether you're your own operator or you own a fleet and you've got a bunch of drivers, the turnover is so high. If you've got folks that are overweight and they can't, get their accreditation to drive, I know that there's a certain level of fitness you need to have to be a truck driver.
Need to keep your DOT physical, but then employee engagement and employee development. You are going to have drivers who are bought in. Like, I look at what fitness has done for the healthier and healthier I got, the more and more I wanted to get involved. The more and more I wanted I had the confidence to get involved, to have these types of conversations, to really go to war against this issue. But the same thing, and not everybody needs to run Ironman or run marathons. That's the point. Not everybody's going to. Obviously, the data shows that this is something that less than 0.5% of the people in the world do. But the healthier and healthier they get,
50.
yeah, you don't need your driver in the twilight of his career having heart attacks. What good is going to cover that? You're going to have an engaged driver who feels who's working for a company and a brand that cares about them, and they're going to want to stick with you and ride it out and help you and help your company succeed. That's the thing. You're going to have drivers who are going to want to help your company grow. At the end of the day, that's just going to do this. I mean, it's a winning this war against people's health in this industry and making it better. It's not just a moral win, but it's everybody wins when it comes to succeeding in business. And I just don't see a counter to it.
Dude, how about this idea? You got to go to Evan and Reed and get a Lombard fitness class built into the truck parking club app. If you're staying at a truck parking club location, one of the benefits is a workout class. Start having people staying in these lots doing workout classes together, led by yours truly. I don't know if that's a way to create that.
You are onto something where if they park at a truck parking club property and they log a workout there, we give out free parking. I'm taking this back to the team. Taking that back to the team. That's a rock solid idea.
There you go.
I like that. That is a rock solid idea.
Here we go. Now we're talking. That's why I come on the. That's why I love yapping. That's why I love talking. See what ideas you can come up with when you go to conferences like BCS and get involved in this community. See what I mean?
I know, right?
We're getting some food trucks with some good food showing up too.
Yeah.
Food, sleep, exercise.
We're gonna have to start talking. And there's ideas with that. There's places like Snap Kitchen. There's these Factor Meals. There's these these companies emerging out that I would like to reach out to because there's no reason why they shouldn't. And I would love to. I should bang that off the property team. Andrew Jones. He helps our property member optimization. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of potential for that, especially if properties are trying to differentiate, be a little bit more competitive. Here we go. The ideas are flowing, dude.
They are, and Nick Klingon-Smith is out there viewing.
There he is. Big shout out to
great
to
job,
right
great job last week at the PCS. That was awesome.
Guy's a badass.
Awesome keynote. Yeah, it was awesome. Michael, thanks for joining us today. It's always a pleasure. It's always fun. Got to catch up last week. Now we're on show. We're on shows leading up to the BCS. We'll probably be on a few shows for the BCS as we head to Orlando in October.
Hell yeah. And I'd love to have both you guys on my show. I'd love to hear both of your guys' stories, of what you I'd love to hear about your why, what gets you fired up about the industry and that going. Cause I know that there's definitely a lot of drivers who deserve to be introduced to two gentlemen such as yourself, who are really, in my opinion, some of the brightest stars of this industry who are trying to drive good conversation and make change. So, I mean, yeah, you two run a show and are two individuals who definitely, again, you're people I'd love to help succeed more than anything, because I know that your success is going to just bring up so much more success around you. And that's what we need. That's what we need to win.
Legs feed the wolves, baby.
You. I know we've talked about it coming on your show, but let's just make it happen.
Let's do it, dude.
Let's make it happen right now. Nick threw up something else, so I'll show that before we take off. Thanks, guys. I love the idea of suggested workouts or something in the app to make it easy. So we got a second vote on that, or actually a third vote.
There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna have to bring it to the tech team.
I know, right? Definitely. All right, great. Thank you very much, and we'll be seeing you very shortly, Michael.
Hey, catch you guys later. Stay safe out there.
You too, man. See you soon.
Great interview as always. To Lombard. Truckparkingclub.com. So, what's next for you, Casey?
Headed out this afternoon. Got a little function with the girlfriend.
Yeah.
But yeah, working on some new things. we'll see. Should be a good week. Next couple of days.
Good. I got a
Great.
couple irons in the fire, working on some things that might be out with it here in the next couple weeks. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. And so yeah, with that, go out, make some margin, make some sells, have a good time, enjoy the weekend. Anything to add?
Onward and upward, baby. Happy Thursday.
Onward and upward. So we'll see you next week, Thursday afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. Take care and have fun.
Amen to that.